Hey, welcome to Thrift Shop. Today we're going to talk about a 10 Phono Cartridge Shootout. Honestly, I don't even know where to start with this Phono Shootout. I thought it would be easy. And in fact, before I did this Phono Cartridge Shootout, I had to do a Phono preamp shootout just to understand how good the Phono cartridges were. If I would have started out with just the cartridges, I think I would have had all mixed up results. So lessons learned, please invest in your Phono preamp before making Phono cartridge movements or purchases. Alright, why did I want to do a Phono cartridge shootout for anything under $500? The market is flooded with Phono cartridges under $500, and certainly I don't have the time or money to buy every one of them. So I purchased the ones on my list that I could find at a heavy discount at around 50% off. Probably the biggest factor for me in a Phono cartridge under $500, I won't pay more than the price of gold for a Phono cartridge. That's right, the price of gold for a Phono cartridge. You do the calculations and you'll see just what I mean. As a disclaimer, all my comments on these cartridges are based on my reference system. My reference system consists of a Musical Fidelity M3 SI, Pioneer HPM 100 vintage speakers, Denon VL12 prime turntable, and an hifi Phono 2 preamp. Certainly you may have better systems or worse systems. It really doesn't matter. Just know that I used one reference system to evaluate all of these cartridges for the differences. It's also worth noting this is not my main system. This is just a reference system that I listen to evaluate products. I have a main system that I use for daily driving. Your results will vary depending on your system, your room, your acoustical treatments, etc. It's worth noting that I have a lot of new videos that will be coming out over the next month that are all turntable based. I'll be reviewing the Denon VL12 Prime, reviewing the Riga Planar 1, and a variety of hacks and common upgrades and variety of things to do with that turntable. Technics SL 1500C and various other speaker and other kind of reviews coming out. So stay tuned. Alright, enough with the small talk. Let's get to the meat of the shootout. I bet you're ready. These are the 10 cartridges we will be discussing today. How do they compare? And what's the best pick in 2021, 2022? You can also go back and watch my reviews on each one of these cartridges if you want to know more. Let's start with Audio-Technica. As many of you might be aware, I am not a big fan of Audio-Technica, even though I grew up with them. Once I heard other cartridges, they just totally blew away the sound of Audio-Technica. If you're a fan, please stick to what you like. Just know that there are better cartridges out there, and I just request that you give them a try. Oh yeah, I should mention, it's only the Audio-Technica cartridges I reviewed. So with that said, can you guess what number 10, as 10 being the worst on this list? Nope, it's not an Audio-Technica. It is the Shure M97 XE cartridge. The Shure M97 XE cartridge is the worst in the shootout, not because of sound qualities, only because of quality. It's a used cartridge that I purchased. It failed immediately after use, and therefore can't really be part of this shootout. I'm including it because if you're considering the Shure M97XE, you should know, just like me, you could be wasting your money. Since the Shure M97XE is no longer in production, your experiences may vary. Unless someone like Jico or another manufacturer brings back this cartridge, I would just suggest you stay away. Number 9, Audio-Technica VM95E. I've said this before, I wanted the Audio-Technica VM95E to win. Yes, I was biased. I wanted the underdog, the total underdog in this shootout to totally win this shootout. I've lived with this cartridge for many years, and I think it's wonderful. Or I should say, I thought it was wonderful. Hey, for the price, it produces music. And if that's all you have, then enjoy it. But you should know that your money will go much further if you look elsewhere. This cartridge had the most amount of treble glare of any other cartridges and actually gave me listening fatigue. This cartridge should only be considered if your system lacks treble energy or your preamp and you need to make up for that lack of treble. This can be a benefit. And in my case, there was too much treble energy that was glaring like digital glare and provided for not a fun listening experience. The Audio-Technica VM95E is not recommended by the thrift shop. Number 8, I already know it, I'm going to get a lot of crap for this one, and I'm sorry, but the Audio-Technica VM740ML is horrible. Nah, just kidding. Based on forum discussions, I really thought this was going to be a no-brainer. Everybody, and I mean everybody, talks about the VM95ML. So this is an Audio-Technica cartridge with a microlinear stylus. Everyone says the VM95ML is the best value cartridge in the market today. So I thought, hey, look out for a 540ML or a 740ML, and I'll give it a look. Or give it a listen, I should say. Even though this is only 8 on the list, that's a subjective 8. Maybe it could be a 9, maybe it could be a 10. And again, Audio-Technica fans, I'm not just bashing Audio-Technica. On my system, this cartridge didn't work. Maybe if you had vintage electronics that didn't have enough treble energy, maybe the capacitors need replaced, something of that nature, and it worked out fine, that's acceptable. But in my case, it did not work, even though I'm using vintage Pioneer HPM 100 speakers. All the modern electronics will again show you what the cartridge can do. I am 100% confident if you took all of these cartridges in the shootout today, you would come away with the same result. Who is this cartridge for? You know, I mentioned the VM95E is for someone who lacks treble energy. You don't want to invest into high-end preamps. You want to use vintage electronics. Maybe this is true with this cartridge, although I probably wouldn't spend that much money. I think this is for someone who really doesn't care about soundstage. You want a two-dimensional presentation of music. Maybe that's all you've ever heard in your life. You never heard soundstage. Then please stick with this cartridge. But if you're all about dynamics, balance, layering in the soundstage, then this cartridge won't give it to you. I would totally save my money and go in another direction. All right, number 7. You're probably guessing it's another Audio-Technica cartridge, and you'd be wrong. It's the Sumiko Blue Point number 2. And you're saying, wait, didn't you just review that cartridge? Didn't you say it sounded good? Had some of the best soundstage you've ever heard? Why is it only a number 7? I think in comparison to all these other cartridges, what I paid for it represents a good value. Although from a sound standpoint, it doesn't stack up to the rest of the cartridges. Also, being that this cartridge is no longer in production, it makes sense to buy something that is in production. And let's be clear, this cartridge does absolutely nothing wrong. I am just putting this in a position relative to other cartridges. I think it is a good cartridge. It does great sound stage. It does everything right, nothing wrong. It just doesn't provide that extra bit of shimmer in the treble region, or just a little more bass to make it more exciting. This is more of a reference, more of a normal sound, not something that's exciting and gets your foot tapping. Again, nothing wrong with this cartridge. Just has tough competition. Number 6, Audio-Technica AT150 SA. I gotta mention, this is a tough decision between another Audio-Technica cartridge, the OC9 XEB. I only put this cartridge behind the OC9 XEB because it's no longer in production, though you still can find new production cartridges at LP Gear. Out of all of the Audio-Technica cartridges, this one had the blackest background by far. This provides for the ability to see within the soundstage all the layers. This didn't seem to be the classic Audio-Technica house sound that I've heard before. I think I would sum this up by saying that if this is the only cartridge that I had, I would be fine. I wouldn't need to find another cartridge. So if that's your case, with maybe a vintage cartridge, then stick with it. Don't look for something new. But you should know that there are many better cartridges out there. Number 5, Audio-Technica OC9 XEB. This was the first moving coil cartridge from Audio-Technica that I've ever used. I will say, just the unboxing experience was something totally different compared to moving magnet counterparts. And the only reason I purchased this, just like any other cartridge, is that I got a crazy 50% off deal on it, so I wanted to give it a try. You will get the classic Audio-Technica house sound, so if you like that, then great. What impressed me the most about this cartridge is that it's the first Audio-Technica cartridge to give me amazing soundstage. It is not the last word in detail retrieval or finesse, but it does represent a good value. I can only assume that moving up to a better stylus and cantilever material for the Audio-Technica moving coil cartridges would be a major step up. I would use this cartridge all day long compared to its moving magnet counterparts. If it were me today and I were looking at a cartridge and I had to choose between several moving coil cartridges, certainly I would consider an Audio-Technica moving coil cartridge, and the proof is with this OC9 XEB. Alright, so we're down to the top 4, and honestly, this is very tough to choose the top 4 of these cartridges. I think the results in the top 4, which one would be 1 versus 4, would be totally system dependent. It's worth noting that these top 4 represent a performance improvement, not just a minor improvement, but a major improvement over the other cartridges reviewed. Number 4, the Zoo DL103. I know, it really doesn't make sense. That's just below the Audio-Technica OC9 XEB moving coil cartridge. But I don't have any other cartridges to fill that spot. If I had 20 cartridges, maybe there would be a bigger difference. So therefore, you're understanding the performance difference between how these top 4 compete. One disadvantage of the Zoo DL103 cartridge is that it may not work with your turntable. Its heavy head shell does require additional counterweight, and this might not work with your tone arm. So therefore, it's at number 4. I have to say, this is probably the coolest looking cartridge that I have. Honestly, this is for somebody who wants a super dark background in their sound. And for anyone who's listened to vinyl, know that's pretty hard to do, but this cartridge can do it. It gives you a relaxed type of feel, yet dynamics are great. So this can take away a lot of the treble energy and give you a relaxed listen for any rock or jazz, whatever you want. This cartridge will handle it. For me, I like a lot of excitement. I like a lot of energy. If you've watched my channel, You know that I love metal and rock, and therefore I want to hear every little detail. This cartridge just pulls back some of that information. Number 3, the Denon DL103R. The Denon DL103R still amazes me today. Every time I swap out cartridges and I put this back in, I am completely amazed. From bass hits to crisp snare hits, this has you covered. Probably the best soundstage for value that you can get. It's honestly really hard to say what this cartridge does wrong, other than the conical stylus does have the chance to wear your records fast. This would be the only downside to this cartridge. I don't think I can live without a Denon DL103R in my arsenal for the rest of my life. Being 100% honest. I will probably take this cartridge and upgrade it 4 or 5 times in my lifetime. And each time I will move to a different cantilever material, whether it be boron, sapphire, ruby. I will keep changing it out, and I love the performance. This one was a total surprise to me. I don't even know what to say. Number 2, the Ortofon 2M Bronze. This really could be number 2, number 3, or number 4, as I mentioned earlier. I have this at number 2 due to its articulate sound properties and being a moving magnet cartridge. This makes it easier for many more people out there to use this cartridge. If you're not familiar with moving coil cartridges, you will need a phono preamp capable of providing the gain required. For me, as I mentioned, I like detail, articulation, bass slam, crisp snare hits. This thing does everything, and with great soundstage from a moving magnet cartridge. If you like your music with rounded edges and warm sound, the Zoo DL103 is a better fit for you, not this cartridge. A great example, I did not like the Denafrips Aries 2 deck. Everything was rounded off, soft. That is kind of like the Denon DL103. I'm sorry, the Zoo DL103 cartridge. So if you want detail, this is more like a saber deck, but with the soundstage of the Denafrips Aries R2R deck. Number 1, drum roll. Assistant, drum roll. I don't have an assistant. Holy shit, the Hanna EH. If you followed my channel and my comments, everyone knows that I like to comment. If you provide a comment, you'll know that I've recommended this specific cartridge in the hifi Phono 2 preamp multiple times. I had no idea of Hanna cartridges and how good they sound. If you want to move up in sound quality, then this is the cartridge for you. For $500, I don't know of anything that can touch it. I haven't tested everything, but this thing is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Should be said that I had this cartridge prior to my Phono preamp shootout. Prior to evaluating Phono preamps, I did not hear how good this cartridge was. It wasn't until it was connected with the hifi iPhono 2 that I realized just how good this thing could be. And that told me, make sure you have your Phono preamp all dialed in, the best you can get, then invest into your cartridge. Perhaps it could be just system synergy too. It's hard to say when one Phono cartridge works so much better than the others, but for sure, many other reviewers out there have listened to the Hanna cartridges and have walked away with rave reviews. If you get the opportunity to purchase this cartridge, you should jump on the chance.